So MechLands heard that I was doing a series on finding the best full-size to full-size adjacent keyboards on the best price point, so they sent me over the Vibe99 to check it out. So without further ado, let's jump into the box and see what's going on. So jumping straight into the box, the first thing you're met with is your user guide. Now, it's a rather small guide, as in dimensions, not pages. It's got plenty of information regarding how to set up your keyboard, as well as function keys and all of that stuff. So make sure to keep that handy and set it aside. Next up is your combination keycap and switch puller. Since it is a mechanical keyboard and hot swappable, it's a useful tool to have. And then lastly, you have your braided USB-C cable. It's really nice. It looks good, feels good. But other than that, that's pretty much all that's in the box, except as well as the keyboard. So let's go ahead and take a look at the keyboard. And this is it. This is the Vibe99 from MechLands. It's a 98% gasket mounted tri-mode mechanical keyboard, and it has a 1-inch TFT screen. Overall, it's a good looking keyboard. I really like the way it looks, and it comes in these two colorways, the blue and white, as well as another optional black and gray. And overall, at first impression, it feels pretty good. The stabilizers don't seem very rattly, everything feels nice and pleasant when you type on it, and yeah, overall, I'm pretty surprised. Now, for being gasket mounted, I did expect a little bit more flex than it actually has, which is definitely interesting. And we'll dive into the keyboard and tear it all down to figure out where that flex went and why it's not there. But if we flip it over, we can continue on to the back, and as you can see, we have our product tag right in the middle. It has a nice little peely, so if you want to peel it off, feel free. But we also have 4 rubber feet on each side, as well as 2-stage flip-up feet for a typing angle. Now when we flip them up and lock them into position, they're decently solid. They don't feel like they'll collapse. I don't see any issues with these at all. They're definitely not the stiffest in the market, but they're definitely not the weakest we've seen. And then the second stage as well, the lower stage if you will, lock in great. There's no issues there. And that's usually the one that has the most issues, so it's nice to see that there's no issues there. There's also rubber feet on the flip-up feet as well, so that's good. Now, taking a look at the top edge, you have your USB wireless dongle. It's got a nice little storage housing here, so you don't have to lose it. And then next to it, you have your mode switcher from Windows Mac, as well as your connectivity switcher from USB, Bluetooth to wireless, as well as your USB-C. That's it for the top side, and flipping over the front side, you have a MechLands brand right here on the right-hand side. I don't mind this. Typically, I'm not a huge fan of having the company's name or product tags on visible seams of the keyboard, but I don't think it's atrocious. It doesn't stand out. It's not too loud, so it's not bad. But overall, pretty impressed. This comes at a price point of just above $80, and it might be the best we've seen so far. But to determine that, I think we needed to keep diving in. So let's go ahead and pull off a keycap and see what we're working with. So these are cherry profile double shot PBT keycaps. They have color that goes edge to edge in this blue tone. I did try to press on them to see how resistant they were or how bendable they were, and they're pretty solid. Now I did notice there's a slight fading scuff mark here on the back, which was kind of a disappointment. I would really like to see, make sure the color aged true all the way around the keycap. But overall, they're not bad. They're not the greatest in the world, but they're definitely not bad. But let's continue diving in. We'll go ahead and pull out a switch, and we'll take a closer look, which these are the MechLands Cream Mint switches. They're a 45-gram linear switch, they're pre-lubed, they're 5-pin, and honestly, they feel pretty good. I was actually really surprised because the stem wobble in these is actually really minimal. And that's super important to me. I really don't like a lot of stem wobble, as most people don't, obviously, but really, really surprising. So good on you. Great switch. So with that said, I think we need to keep diving into the keyboard. So let's go ahead and grab our buckets, grab our tools, and get all these keycaps off and switches out. Okay, now that we have everything out of the keyboard, now we can figure out how to get into the keyboard. So the first thing we're going to do is flip over the keyboard, flip up our feet, and then we'll inspect for some screws. This is a common place for them to hide screws, so we always want to make sure that we check here first. Now we verify there's no screws here, and we don't have any visible screws up top. I think this is going to be a pry method. So the first thing I'll do was try to pry the bottom edge here, and to no avail, it doesn't really pop off. So I think this is going to be a pry tool situation. So we'll go ahead and grab our plastic pry tools, and then we'll just start prying our edges, also making sure we remove our wireless dongle so we don't lose it in the process. But we'll find the seam and then we'll just run a small pry tool between this seam, so that way we can pop the clips. We insert one using as little leverage, and then that's it. We just go around the edge with our other tool. This can be done with a handful of different tools. I try to use the plastic ones always, so I don't want to scuff up the keyboard when doing this. But it's pretty simple. Just run around the edges, you'll hear the clips pop, and you'll be able to separate the keyboard and the case, no issues at all. Okay, now that we have our clips separated, we can go ahead and flip our keyboard back over, and then we can separate the case. As you can see here, it pops right up, and there's no problems at all. Now you have the top of the case in your hands. Also, just a note here, you want to make sure that when you're putting everything back together, that your switches are lined up with the switch position on the back. This is super important, so don't ever forget that step. But other than that, you have your top case, we're into the keyboard, so we can go ahead and set that aside, and then we can keep diving into the keyboard. Okay, now that we've taken everything apart and we're actually inside the keyboard, we can see that we have a polycarbonate flex cut plate. As you can see, these relief cuts between the switches. We also can verify that we have lube stabilizers that are plate mounted, and then we have gasket mounts all the way around the edges of the plate. We also have our TFT screen that appears to be attached or screwed into the plate and or PCB, so we're going to need to take this thing out. So you want to start by flipping it away from you. You'll see one connector with the ribbon cable. You'll flip up the tab, and then you'll be able to pull the PCB and the plate out. They are attached together, which we'll have to figure out how to dive into in just a moment. For right now, we're going to continue with the case, so we'll go ahead and set that aside, and we'll focus on the case for this moment. And as you can see, the first thing that I see is we have the return of the silicone pad. And this has kind of been a thing recently, is that every keyboard is coming with a silicone pad. And we've had discussions if we love it or hate it. And there's no denying it. It does give a deeper typing experience, which is cool. But one thing I do like that they did here is they have slots that protect the batteries. So now there's a buffer between the case, battery, and then silicone pad before going to the PCB. So I do like that. That's pretty cool. But I'm still unsure how much I love silicone pads. I think we definitely need to do a deep dive on doing silicone pad versus foam versus like all these different materials to kind of see who's the winner here. But regardless, let me know what you think in the comments below. We're going to keep diving into this. Now next up, you have your batteries. You have two 4,000 milliamp hour batteries and a daughter board. Well, that's it. That's all that's in the bottom of the case. So now that we've seen everything to do with the case, let's go ahead and grab our PCB and our plate and take a look at that. Okay, with our plate and our PCB back in front of us, now we can figure out how to separate these. Now the left side doesn't feel like anything's connected, and it looks like it separates from the PCB just fine, but it looks like our screen is actually holding down the right side. If we take a look at the back, you can actually see that there is a screw as well as a ribbon cable that connects the screen to the actual PCB. So I think we're going to need to go ahead and take the ribbon cable out. So we'll flip up the little tab and then we'll pull the ribbon cable out and that'll separate that. And then we'll go ahead and grab a Phillips screwdriver and then we'll go ahead and take this one screw out. This is a super simple process. I'm actually kind of glad that it wasn't like clipped in or held in with like prongs. This makes it much easier to take in and out. I'm not sure why you would take it in and out multiple times or anything like that, but for service and maintenance, it is a nice touch. Once you unscrew it, now you can take the entire connection out, and that's it. Now you have a small screen in the palm of your hand. Congratulations. It's like the future or something. But either way, it's just a 1.06 inch TFT screen. It has this little ribbon cable, and that's about it. Just make sure you take care of this. Make sure you handle this with care if you do take yours out, because we don't want to damage it or anything like that. But now that we have it out, we can go ahead and set it aside, and we should be able to lift our plate from our PCB. Which, surprisingly, that's it. It's that simple. There's no additional screws or posts or anything like that holding things in. Also, we can see now that we have an IXPE switch pad, we have PET film, and then pour-on foam. So we have plenty of foam, 5 layers in total, giving this keyboard a pretty good sound, at least in my opinion. I mean, sound is subjective, so maybe you will like it, maybe you won't like it. Either or, let me know in the comments below what you think. But other than that sums up our plate. So let's go ahead and take a look at our PCB. So taking a closer look at our PCB, we can see that we have our hot swap sockets as well as south facing RGB. And I also thought it was cool here that they have kind of a diagram of different kind of layouts, depending on where you're located and what kind of keyboard you use, which I just thought was a cool touch, and it's cool to see these little manufacturing details. But with that said, let's go ahead and flip over the back and we can see the additional pour-on foam that's adhered to the back of the PCB. Luckily, this isn't glued on, it's just like a sticky backing, which I do like. It's not hard to take off and it's not hard to put back on, which I do enjoy, so it's a nice touch. And it's just more foam, so more deep, typing experience. But other than that, that sums up the internals, so let's get everything back together, set up the software, and give it a listen. Okay, now that we're ready to set up the software, we'll head over to the MechLands website, we'll go to download, we'll select software, and then we're going to search for Vibe99. Once you do that, two will pop up, one being the manual, the other being the driver. You want the driver, and then you'll select the download for Windows. And once you download that, you'll extract it and you'll install it and you'll get this. This is the exclusive software. Now, this is your basic software. It's the run of the mill, but it should get the job done. The first menu you're met with is your configuration menu. This is where you can do all your keybinds and reassignments. So if you want to change your A key to an escape key, you simply select the A, select escape, and now your A is an escape key. If you want to change it back to default, you can right click and set it back to default and it will change it back to an A. Here you can also assign the key different values as well by right-clicking using custom functions. Here you can import custom functions, so that way you can set and assign your keys to whatever you want. It's pretty robust, to be honest with you. I'm not usually a fan of using third-party software, but all in all, it works pretty well. Next up, you can also record your macros as well. You can import, export, delete, or save macros. Next up will be your lighting. This is all your RGB. Here you have plenty of RGB to choose from, as well as your different lighting brightnesses, your lighting speeds, as well as your color palettes, so you can kind of customize and set up to your heart's desire. Now the next function is the most important to me for the keyboard, and that's your TFT screen. Now you can do all kinds of stuff by editing each frame, drawing pictures, exporting GIFs, anything like that. But the biggest thing for me is importing a different image onto the screen itself. So we'll select import. We'll go ahead and select the GIF that we downloaded, which is my little stone man here, popping up some legs. And then we can go through it and scroll frame by frame if you want to make any changes. But once you're happy with it, you'll just upload the keyboard. It'll do your little upload process. It doesn't take too long. It will take longer depending on how long the GIF is and how many frames there are. But once it goes through the upload process, it immediately goes to the keyboard. And that's it. All job done. So now that we have our custom image here, we're done with our TFT screen. Now we can go ahead and go to user lighting. So if you have lighting in mind that doesn't come stock with the keyboard, here you can make a new lighting assignment. You can adjust all your keys. You can do all of them at once, individual, numerical, WASD, anything like that. There's also real-time lighting as well if you want to set up real-time lighting. And then also there's reactive lighting to music. So if you want to have musical lighting that matches your background music, you can do that here. Lastly is your system settings, including key response time, your sleep timer for when you're on wireless. If you need to reset the keyboard or factory reset it completely to stock or disable any functions, you can do that here. But that pretty much sums up the keyboard software. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the function keys in the screen and then we'll give it a listen. All right, so we got the keyboard back at my desk. And as you can see here, we have our RGB, which is pretty vibrant, to be honest with you. It's much brighter than I thought it would be. And then we have our cool little screen with our little stone man growing some legs. Now, what's really cool is you don't really have to go into the software to make a lot of changes here. You pretty much just use the function key and then your arrows, and you go through all the settings that are actually on the screen. Now, all these settings control everything. Your connectivity, your RGB, your screen, your time and date, anything you want can be controlled right here, which is also a nice touch. I do like when the screen is utilized for more information than just a GIF, so this is cool. But now that we've done that, let's go ahead and give it a listen. So what are my final thoughts? Well, let's start with the good. First thing, it's got a numpad, baby. It's got the numpad that everybody seems to be looking for right now. And it's got good connectivity options between wired, wireless, and Bluetooth. So those are definitely a plus. The switches and stab are phenomenal. They definitely feel great. The switches being pre-lubed, the stabs being pre-lubed, and the switches also having minimum stem wobble and just feeling really good out of the box. Like, super impressed with that. The weight, the feel, and the sound of the keyboard are definitely phenomenal. I was expecting a lot less, but it delivered a lot more, which is super cool. Now, what I don't like is the keycap color. And not the color itself, but the fact that some of them were faded. I definitely don't like that. With a keyboard coming in at $80, I definitely expect my keycaps to have, matching color and no fade or scuff marks. The other thing I didn't like is there's no extra switches, so in case of a damaged or a broken switch or a failing switch, we don't have a switch to, swap it out with. And it's a hot swap keyboard, so I feel like it should at least come with a couple extra switches. Also, with that note, there was no Mac specific keycaps. And with it having a Mac option, it definitely feels weird plugging this into my Mac and not having Mac keycaps. I know it's a little thing, but at a price point of double others that come with those, I expect those to come with it. It's just kind of industry standard. But regardless of what I didn't like, I think it punches well above what my expectations for really important things and was just a little under expectations of really things that aren't super important, like the Mac keycaps. But overall, I would definitely love your feedback. What do you think? Do you think the Vibe99 is a solid pickup? Do you think $80 is going to be the price point to beat? Because for me personally, I think as of right now, this is my favorite under $100 98% that we've tested and that we've looked at. But as always, I leave it in your hands. What do you think? And is there a keyboard, a 98%, an 1800, a full size that you know of that you think is a hidden gem that I should take a look at? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And if you could drop a like and hit subscribe, it would mean the world to me. If you want to check out the Vibe99, you can check it out in the description box below. And that's it. The end. Thank you for watching. And remember, keep keyboarding.